Hey, listen, we've been talking about personal revival. We started last week having a personal revival. I want to continue that thought today with us on having a personal revival. We talk a lot about having a great revival in a church and a revival in a town or a city in our state. We all say that we would love and need a revival in our nation, but what would happen if you had a personal revival? What would happen if you would become so alive, so awake, and so passionate about the things of God personally? I've never heard a Christian, at least I've never heard it yet, a Christian come tell me, listen, I hear God talk to me too much. You know what I'm talking about? Most of us are saying, man, I wish I could hear God a little bit more. I wish God would speak a little bit more. Anyone here ever said that or thought that? Man, I wish I could hear God a little better. I wish God would speak to me a little bit more. No one in here really saying, God's a little too chatty sometimes. A lot of words coming from heaven towards me. We would love to hear God more. In fact, maybe, if you're being honest, maybe you're even saying, I don't even know if God talks to me yet. I don't even know what he sounds like. I haven't even heard him yet. Like, I would, not just more, just some, like just at all. Like, so I think a lot of us are looking for that awakening, that revival in us personally. And what would happen in our life groups, on our dream team? What would happen in our church? What would happen in our neighborhoods, in our cities, in the state, if we all had individual, unique, personal revivals, that Jesus came and just revived something in us? And so I want to talk today for a few more moments on the concept of personal revival. The title of my message today is Simple Obedience. Simple obedience. I want to talk about revival starts with simple obedience. I want to read what's known as the Great Commission. Jesus says this right before he goes to heaven. One of the last things Jesus says on earth before he literally pulls a Superman and just flies up to heaven is right here in Matthew 28. We're going to start in verse 18. It says, Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. Therefore, go and make disciples. Don't invite disciples. Don't witness to make them. Make them, create them, sculpt them. Make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands that I've given you. And be sure of this, know this, be confident in this, that I am with you always. I'm not with you on Sundays only. I'm not with you when you've earned it. I'm not with you when you deserve it. I'm not with you when you're good enough. I'm not with the pastors only. I'm not with the gift. I'm with you, and I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. Go and make disciples. The first point I want to talk today for a few moments is the personal revival starts with you obeying what Jesus has said last. Let me say it this way. Jesus won't say something next until you obey what he said last. Many of us today are saying, God, what's my calling? What's my purpose? What's my mission? What are you calling me to? Should I go to this college or that college? Should I marry this person or that person? God, heal me. God, use me. God, and we're asking God for things, and he's like, listen, I've already told you to do something, and so until you do that thing, I'm not going to give you another thing. He doesn't need to give you the second direction until you follow the first direction. And if you are passively disobeying what he's already said, he won't purposefully give you the next step. See, personal revival starts with what he's already told you to do so that you can get something next. But stop asking for the next until you do what he's already said. Jesus says in his word that he's going to build his church. In fact, the only thing in the New Testament that Jesus says he's building is his church. Now, he's about blessing you. He's about blessing your marriage. He's all about blessing your health. He's about giving you he's all about wisdom for you, prosperity for you. He's all about that. But the only thing that he's building is his church. So you would do good to line your life up with the thing that Jesus is committed to build. If you find a way to line your life up doing what he cares most about, I bet it's gonna work out well for you. Now, I'm not talking about brick and mortar. I'm not talking about buildings. I'm talking about people. Because Jesus said he'll build his church. His church is you and I. His church is his sons and daughters. His church is the lost. His church is people. And so when you start reaching people, when you start serving people, when you start loving people, when you start reaching the lost, when you start reaching what he's trying to reach and build what he's trying to build, oh, you're gonna be his favorite. You know what I'm talking about? When you start lining yourself up with what he cares most about, oh, he's gonna be excited to bless you, to prosper you, to use you. And he says, go and make. He didn't say go and just witness. He didn't say go and just post on social media. He didn't say just invite him to church and leave it. No, he said make. In this verse, it's not just to pastors. It's not to me, it's not to my dad, it's not to my mom, it's not to the life group leaders. It's not to dream teamers. It's not to extroverts. Come on, somebody. It's not. So you introverts, I got you. This is to you as well. This is not for just a few of the Enneagrams. Like if you're an Enneagram 7, I'm talking to you. But if you're a 6, I'm gonna let you just hold back. Which one would not want to go out, Tasha? You know more of these. The 5, see, I guess right. All you 5s and 6s, I'm talking to you. I'm looking at you, okay? Talking to you. Go make some disciples. Who are the out loud ones? The 7s and the 3s? The 3s. All you achievers out there, you better get out there and achieve something, okay? Reach someone for Jesus. Do something with yourself. You see, this verse isn't just written to the people that feel comfortable on a microphone. It's written to you. And he adds this little caveat, then he goes, and I will be with you always. Oh, I love that. I love always. Because I start to allow the devil to lie to me that he's only with me when I feel him. You ever felt that way? Like you're like, is Jesus with me? He's like, I'll be with you always. Are you sure? Yes. I don't feel you. I don't care. How close are you? I'm right here. But I don't earn it. I didn't ask about that. But I haven't deserved it. Doesn't matter. I haven't been good enough. I'm still here. Oh, you thought your sin was stronger than my grace. No, that's not gonna happen. I'm still here. You see, he's still with you, and he's trying to empower you, and he's trying to use you. And God, we gotta get on what Jesus is telling us to do. And so too many of us are living our entire lives wondering and questioning what he's called us to. And he's already told us to do something. So when you start doing what he said, he'll give you some more in the process. Get the bike rolling. Get your life going. Get on mission. Get in calling and just see what Jesus does as you start going. Go make disciples. Paul says it this way in 2 Timothy. Here, they're going to throw it on the screen. In 2 Timothy, Paul's talking. He says, my life has been poured out as an offering to God. I've fought the good fight. I've finished the race. I have remained faithful. I've finished the race. I love that Paul says he had a race and he finished it. He finished. You know that your life is a race? That let me say it this way. Your life has a calling on it. Your life, there's a course for your life. Maybe you could say there's a journey for you to live. Y'all ever watch Olympics? I love the Olympics and I love the track and field in the ones that run the relay. You know the little batons, you know what I'm talking about? They got that person that's in the blocks that just starts just out and just bang, they come running out of this fast. But what I've heard, I never did this because the sports I did, when you ran, it was because you were in trouble. You know what I'm talking about? I didn't sign up for the sport that just ran to run. That is from the devil. My goodness. Y'all just runners? Someone would tell them it's just a runner's high. And I was like, I swear, I've tried so hard to find it. It eludes me every time. I don't know where it goes. It hides from me, but I've never found it. Anyway. So they say that in the transition from one runner to the next, that you got to make that transition so perfect, so smooth, so seamless. And if you don't, it could cost you the race. It could cost you a medal. It could cost you the win, because the person is running with everything that they've got left. So they don't got much more. Like, they're giving it their all, but the next person has to take off, making sure that they're running with them. They can't outrun them, so the person can't catch them with the baton, but they don't want to slow down so that they lose time. You also got to catch the baton. So that transition is a vital moment in the race. And Jesus is looking at you and saying, you've got a race. Run your race. He says, listen, go make disciples of everyone. Every person, every color, every tribe, every tongue. If they're breathing, talk to them, witness to them, love them, serve them, make a disciple of them. Ready, set. And then you're like, but God, what should I do? And he's like, God, what's my calling? Your baton's right here. God, what should I do? But like, should I go to this college? Do they have people there? Yes. Then yes. So, should I go on a mission trip? Should I give? Should I serve? Should I take your baton? But what's for me, God? I'll get someone else. Then he's like, where's that crackhead, dopehead, 19-year-old kid that I'm sending to rehab in Seattle? Casey Tree, come take this baton, because everyone else was perfect, didn't want it. I meant that in full respect. He's like, go, reach people. I'm like, but what's my calling? That's right here, go to reach people. Are you sure that's what I'm called to do? Yes. And he's just like trying to hand a baton for your race to be run. And you're like, but what's my race? And he's like, it's almost like I said it last. Like the last thing I said before I floated into heaven was go make disciples. It's like I saved the best for last. They're like, do you think that meant me? He's like, yes. I said, everyone, go reach everyone. How much more inclusive could I have made that? Was it hard? Was it confusing? Did I make it tricky? Like, no, you don't need a degree. You don't need to go to seminary. You don't need to go to Bible school. It's literally just you go. You know the crazy or the best part about this is that Jesus knows everything about you, and he still is trying to hand you the baton. He knows your past. He knows your future. He knows your failures. He knows your mistakes. He knows the things you're trying to hide. He knows it all. He knows the pride. He knows the arrogance. He knows the fears. And he's like, I got a baton. And here's the other thing. He's not trying to give you Casey's baton. He's trying to give you yours. So some people get afraid. They're like, well, if I take the baton, am I going to be like a pastor? No. Unless that's in you. Well, is he going to send me on a mission field? No, unless it's already in you. Like he's trying to have you run your race. God does not need every Christian on the planet to be a pastor. He doesn't need every Christian to be a missionary. He doesn't need every Christian to be a business owner. He doesn't need every Christian to be a lawyer. He doesn't need every Christian to be a doctor. He needs you to run your race, to take your baton. Let me prove it to you. I love this. Our pastor, my dad, who I love, my hero. But have y'all ever realized when he's sharing his testimony that this guy doesn't go to rehab for a month? When we got saved, he's 19. State sends him to rehab for drugs, sales, use, whatever. He's just going to, not a month of rehab, not 2 months of rehab, not even 6 months of rehab. He went to 2 years of rehab. They were like, you leave rehab, you go into prison. We're talking years. Yeah. This is not like someone's just taking some weed oil for their lower back pain. It helps me sleep at night, Pastor. Whatever. Like rehab for 2 years. And God's like, let me get a baton. That guy, I'm about to use the mess out of that guy. This guy, take this baton. You are who I've been looking for. You got the perfect past, the perfect future. Man, I love this faith. I want to use that guy. But now you're saying, I can hear you say, yeah, see, God only uses people with good testimonies. I don't got a good testimony. I got an answer for you too, my friend. I knew you were gonna say that. My beautiful mother, our pastor, Pastor Wendy, y'all bless her heart. She is still so innocent that in the dictionary next to gullible is my mom, our pastor. I mean that with all love and respect, because this lady started dating a drug addict in rehab. She called her mom. Cook, she said this to us. You've heard the story. She called her mom. It's like, Mom, after 1 date, 2 dates, how many days do you go? One date. One date that the drug rehab had to sign him out for. She calls her mom, 1 date, which is a little crazy. And it's like, I met my husband. She's like, that's amazing, Wendy. Where'd you meet him? Oh, Bible school, and he's in drug rehab, so in 2 years he could get out and get married. What? No. Ladies, if you're single, don't date a drug addict. Like, wait for him to get fully out and get a job. No dates until he's got a job, okay? It worked for her, it won't work for you. Don't do that. Don't do that at all. That's crazy. Okay, don't tell your granddaughters that story. Willow doesn't get to know that. Nora doesn't get this story until they're married. They will not be going out with those dudes, okay? Grandpa did it, not my son-in-law, okay? I need some fruit on that tree before I see a date, okay? No, Willow. Get back in the house. Y'all, my mom, I love this about her, but this is how innocent she is. Sarah, she grew up in Wenatchee, which I don't know if they're all innocent over there, probably not, but she, little pastor's daughter. Y'all, the other day, she was telling her testimony to us as in us, she was telling you guys she was preaching. She's like, Jesus, when he saved me, I was a thief. I stole from a gas station. I stole some gum. And I was like, wait, that's what God saved you from, a life of crime? Stealing gum from a gas station? That's the best she's got, church. And she means it. That's why we love her, because she's like, God saved me. And we're like, what? She's been loving Jesus since she was born, church. That's what I mean. I don't know what your testimony is. You may have sold some bubble gum and felt guilty about it. You may have sold some drugs and gotten to rehab. God has got a baton for you. He says, run your race. You be used by me. Reach the people I've called you to reach. I don't care what your past looks like. I love it. I love you. So whether you think you got a testimony or not, God's got a call. God's got a purpose for you. There's a race for you to run. Catch your baton. Personal revival starts with obeying what God said last. He's already told you to do something. Are you going to follow that? Are you going to obey that? He's already told you to go. Stop asking for more until you start obeying what he's already said. The disciples in John 21, there's a story. And Jesus walks up to the shore and he sees his disciples who are professional fishermen. And they're fishing. Now, Jesus in the Bible, it says he was a carpenter by trade. When he grew up until his 30s, he was a carpenter. And then he goes into public ministry for 3 years. But up till his 30, he was making tables and chairs. Little carpentry, little cupboards, cabinets, probably perfectly lined up. I'm talking about, like, he probably didn't need a level. He was like, that's perfect. Like, God, man, this Jesus guy. But he's not a fisherman. And he walks up and he sees these disciples. He goes, hey, y'all been fishing all night? And they're like, yep. Catch anything? Nope. Throw your nets on the other side. Excuse me? Listen, Jesus, we're like, this is what we do. So maybe just chill on the whole fishing advice. And if you could just go make a table, that would work for us. And we'll catch the fish. You make make a spatula or something. Make some utensils, Jesus. Stick to woodwork. We'll stick to fishing, okay? Like, Personal revival starts with your obedience when it doesn't make sense. So, when it doesn't make sense. See, Jesus said, put the nets on the other side, but it doesn't make sense. Jesus, you're trying to tell me, a professional fisherman, that we've been fishing all night in a lake. This Sea of Galilee, we know this sea. We fished it our whole lives. Our fathers fished it their whole lives. We know what to do in this lake. We've been trolling all night long. And you're telling me that this little boat we got back in the day, 15 feet over there, the fish have just been like, here comes the net, here comes the net, here comes the net. And if we throw it on the other side, we're gonna get him. He's like, yes. He's like, I swear, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You know what else doesn't make sense? Forgiveness. You know what else doesn't make sense? Tithe. You know what else doesn't make sense? Being the servant of all makes you the greatest. You see, a lot of things that Jesus tries to tell you to do won't make sense to you until you do it. But he's looking for your obedience even when it doesn't make sense. He's not asking if it's logical, he's looking for someone to follow. Will you follow him even when it doesn't make sense? Will you throw your nets on the other side of the boat even when it doesn't make sense? Let me say it this way. What if you're the expert? But Jesus, I'm the expert in this field. This is what I do. I'm in finance. This is my marriage. I understand. I know. And Jesus is like, yeah, now I need you to listen to me, even though it doesn't make sense to you. See, personal revival will continue in your life when you're willing to obey when it doesn't make sense. Is this the moment you drop it again? Is this the moment? You've been following, coming to church, you're trying to give, you're going to life group, you're getting on the dream team, you've brought someone to church with you, but then Jesus tells you, forgive that parent that hurt you. Forgive that older friend of yours that you feel like they stabbed you in the back, but you don't know what they did to me. Jesus is like, I'm not saying that what they did was right, I'm telling you to forgive. Tithe, but it doesn't make sense. Just trust me, see what happens. Go to that life group. But I'm just so fearful. I don't know if I can let people in. Just go, see what happens. Join that life. But my house doesn't fit people. Just start a life group. Get 5 or 6 friends over in your house. Just open your life up to let me fill it. But it doesn't make sense. When things don't make sense, will you drop the baton? Is that the moment that you stop following because it didn't make sense to you logically? Just didn't add up, Jesus. It always has to add up for you to follow. Will you follow when Jesus says, take the net and put it on the other side? But Jesus, I've been working all night. I've been trying my whole life. I've been working this marriage my whole life. I've been trying, and Jesus says, put the net on the other side. But Jesus, it's too late. We can't make it anymore. Try one more thing. Move the net. Try one more thing. Move the net. There's a story in Matthew 14. I want to read this. They're going to throw it on the screen. I think we focus on a different part of the story, but I want to focus on the beginning of it. It says, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he sent the multitudes away. Get in the boat as he sent the multitudes away. When he sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now, when evening came, he was alone there. But the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves. For the wind was contrary. Now the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went to them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it is a ghost. And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid. And Peter answered and said to him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So he said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind was boisterous, he was afraid and began to sink. He cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him. And he said to him, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? I feel it's fascinating that the start of the story is Jesus making them get in a boat and then sending them on before him. And then the storm came. Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right and somehow found yourself in a storm? Like you're doing it right. I'm working hard, being faithful, being committed, serving, giving. And I don't know where this storm came from. You ever felt like you didn't deserve the valley that you found yourself in, the struggle you found yourself going through, the sickness that you were fighting, the hardship in your marriage, the storm? Like there's this chaos out of nowhere. There's financial struggle out of nowhere. Like, God, I've been faithful. I've been committed. Why am I going through these struggles? God, I've been following you, serving you, giving, tithing, worshiping, praying, reading my word. I feel like I'm doing it right. How come I found myself in a storm? These disciples found themselves in a storm, and Jesus sent them there. Jesus said, get in the boat, and he made them go out into the lake. And then he doubles down. And he comes out and he sees Peter, and Peter's like, if it's you, prove it. Jesus is like, get out of the boat, come to me. Now, I'm not like an expert on walking on water, right? But I would suspect that I would find it more comfortable if the storm stopped first. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I'm not saying I'm gonna be good at either version, but I would rather try calm water over a storm. You ever felt like you asked Jesus to calm the storm before you wanted to get out of the boat? Jesus, I need you to show me that you could bless me before I'll tithe. Oh, come on. Come on, get off your phones back. Check back in. I'll stop talking about tithe. Don't worry about it. You feel like you're wanting God to show himself before you take a step of faith. Give me great relationships before I expose myself to trusting. Well, it doesn't work that way. Give me, you see, you gotta serve, you gotta love, you gotta give, you gotta open yourself up, you gotta open your heart up, God, bring me a harvest. Well, then sow some seed. What does that mean? In your friendships, in your business, in your, where you need a harvest, harvest only come from the seed that's sown. So where are you stretching in faith? You see, I think many of us are saying, God, solve my storms. And I think God is looking at many of us and he's saying, get out of the boat. But I need you to solve the storm. And he said, I need you to get out of the boat. But I need you to solve the storm. I need you to get out of the boat. But solve this storm, get out of the boat. Solve my marriage, get out of the boat. Solve my finances, get out of the boat. Heal me, God, get out of the boat. And many of us in the storm have started to let go of our batons. Because we're like, God, why am I in this storm? What did I do to deserve this or earn this? And Jesus is like, you didn't earn it, you didn't deserve it, but you're in it, and I need to see your faith in it. I could solve the storm, I'm with you. He led with, I'm with you always. I'm with you always. I'm with you always. In the storm and out of the storm. On a good day and a bad day. When you're feeling healthy and you're feeling sick. When your marriage is good, your marriage is on the rocks. When your kids are listening, when they're not. Like he's with you always. Will you get out of the boat? And I think many of us are saying, solve my storm. And he's saying, get out of the boat. It's obedience. It's obedience. It's obedience. Will you obey? Will you follow in the storm? Or is that the moment you drop the baton? Is that the moment that says, man, I've been trying, but just chaos and issues and what, I didn't earn this, I didn't deserve this. Have you seen the abuse I had to go through? Have you seen the pain I went through? Have you seen the family I had? I had everything go against me. The deck was stacked against me. My first marriage left, my first marriage failed. I had a miscarriage, I had an abortion, I had abuse, I had whatever you've got. I'm not saying that you earned it or deserved it or should have had it. I'm saying in the storm, Jesus is with you. And will you follow? Will you get out of the boat? Will you trust again? Will you get out of the boat no matter what the storm is and say, I will follow you? will you get out of the boat? The band can come to the stage. I want to share a story with you in the book of Acts, chapter 10. I'm going to read a few of the verses quickly. There's a story in the book of Acts, chapters 10 and 11, but I'm going to read a few of the verses out of 10. A story of Cornelius, who is a Roman soldier, is a Gentile. And it says in Acts 10, verse 3, about the 9th hour of the day, he saw clearly in a vision an angel of God coming to him and saying, Cornelius. And when he observed him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? So we said to him, your prayers and your alms have come up before as a memorial before God. Now send men to Joppa, and send for Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodging with Simon a tanner, whose house is by the sea. He will tell you what you must do. Jump down to verse 19, and it says, while Peter thought about the vision he had just had, the Spirit came again to him, saying, behold, 3 men are seeking you. Arise, therefore, go down and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Now go all the way to verse 44. After Peter had gone with them to Cornelius' house, it says, while Peter was speaking these words, the Holy Spirit fell on those who heard the word. Now, follow me here. Cornelius is a Gentile. What does that mean in the New Testament? It means not a Jew. How many of us in here are not Jewish? You should most likely have raised your hand. Most of us should be raising our hands in this moment. Most of us are not Jewish. In this moment, it had been 10 years since Jesus had ascended to heaven to the vision of Cornelius. 10 years, a decade. A decade had passed, and the disciples still hadn't preached the message of Jesus to the Gentile world. They were still only preaching to Israel. You had to be Jewish to hear this message. So God sends an angel to Cornelius, and he says, send for Peter. And when Peter shows up, just see what happens. And then he tells Peter, hey, listen, go with them and ask nothing. They've come from me, follow. For 10 years, they had heard Jesus say, take this message to the ends of the earth, to every nation, to every tribe, to every tongue, to every person, to everyone. And they hadn't gone beyond their own people group. Until finally God says, fine, I'm going to take a little control. I'm sending an angel and I'm sending a vision. But catch this. God sent a vision to Cornelius, but his spirit didn't fall until Peter obeyed. He sent an angel, but he didn't send his spirit. His spirit broke out when Peter obeyed. Let me say it this way. Your personal revival is hinging on your obedience, but so is someone else's. Let me say it this way. Someone else's eternity may hinge on your obedience. They were waiting on the Spirit, and the Spirit broke out when Peter showed up. It took him 10 years to obey, but once he did, who was waiting? Whose eternity is hinged on your obedience? Go. Go and love. Go and serve. Be the Jesus for your world. You don't got to be the pastor. You don't got to preach. It's got to be Jesus in you. In you. Not some missionary, not an evangelist, not just you. Full of the Spirit of God. Cornelius and his whole household were saved because of Peter's obedience. Their eternity hinged on Peter's willingness to say yes. Will you say yes to Jesus? Will you follow Jesus? Will you hold on to the baton on the highs and the lows, in the good days and the bad days, in the storms, when life is easy and when life is hard? What will you do with the race that you've been called to. It hinges on your obedience.